Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, President of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth video series. And I have a new friend with me. So Jamie, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Yes. So my name is Jamie Milam. I am, first and foremost, I am a mother of an awesome teenage son. I am also an entrepreneur. I run 3 different businesses. So I'm a realtor. I'm also a property manager, and I'm a business coach. And I help entrepreneurs reverse engineer their goals, whether that's like a big broad goal in general for their business plan or a specific like launch or something new. And I help reverse engineer them, organize those ideas, and get a purposeful plan with strategic systems in place. I love it because it helps really reduce the amount of time that it takes to achieve something. I've found through life. I've been on my own since I was 15, been a mom since I was 19. I rebuilt my entire life from a Rubbermaid storage tote after finding out I was pregnant, coming out of overcoming drug addiction. And so I found that having those plans in place is really what helps achieve goals in a really timely manner without having a ton of like distraction and overwhelm. And what we can find is that when they're organized like this, they're a lot easier to achieve than what we originally think, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're coaching other people to do successfully what you have already done. So it's you're drawing from your own experience to help other people be successful just like you have been.
Yeah, and and really it's in whatever space that they want. I had realized in the last 12 months, I would say, when it just kept coming up to me, people were like, you're so determined, you have this drive, like you're persistent and you're consistent. And I just kind of like, yeah, but like anybody can do that.
Mm.
Originally I thought it was born out of like survival skills, and it really was. I think so. However, I started to go back and look through every different season of my life and figure out like what was it that helped me get there. And every single time I started with, this is what my end goal is. This is the outcome that I'm looking for. And I put a plan in place to achieve them. Now, these plans, they're intended to be able to be pivoted, right? We change as adults going through different seasons. Things happen. I went through a divorce last year. Yeah, my plan changed a bit, right? But it was the same thing. Let's reverse engineer now and figure it out, which helps reduce that overwhelm, like I was saying, because I find that then I can strategically look at numbers and say, okay, this is what I want to hit. This is what I need to hit. This is how I can do that on a quarterly or a monthly basis, down to a daily basis. Even we know what activities are going to get us there. And so it's been really fascinating now being in the coaching space and working with so many entrepreneurs who we start at the same spot, it seems like. And every time they're like, wow, I had no idea that I actually didn't even need to make as much money as I like set this big goal in my head, right? Like, which they still can, right? But it starts to feel really, really big. And then they're like, how am I ever going to get there? And it's like, okay, well, let's first make sure that we know why we're aiming for that number or
Right.
for that outcome. And so when we get really attached to the why behind it, get really strategic about those plans, then it's easily achievable.
Now, are there certain types of businesses that you gravitate towards helping, like in your coaching business?
Not really. I thought that it would be a little bit more with the real estate agent space, but that's not been the case. What I've found again is that this is kind of something that works with everybody. I mean, I've got clients that are in real estate. Yes, they're real estate agents. I've got photographers that run photography businesses. I even have a client who has like a trucking business
Hmm.
where they do truckloads of things. And
Yeah.
so essentially it's, how do we get systematized, right? Once we determined, okay, here's what our goal is, our financial goal, right? Which the financial planning process of that incorporates not only like what is it that we need, to live, like to eat, drink, sleep, but then what is it that we need to run our business? And what is it that would fund that life that we truly desire and deserve? Meaning, our vacations, or if we're saving for an investment property or for a first time home purchase, whatever that might look like, a new car, whatever, trip to Europe, I don't care.
Yeah.
You want to go buy a yacht, let's work that in too, right? We could build an entire plan around buying a yacht if you wanted. But it starts there. And then it starts to become, all right, what systems can we use to get a little bit more strategic? So then we can scale, we can automate. I love, love, love leverage. Automation to me is working smarter, not harder. And so when we can do that with leverage, whether that's tools, people, platforms, whatever that might be, we can really start to generate more activities while actually doing less.
Mm-hmm.
So it really works for any business space, I would say.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And then how do I guess how do you find your clients and how do they find you? What are the things that you're doing to draw people in?
Yeah, great question. Well, I love community. I will absolutely say that masterminding had been the key to entrepreneurial success for myself. I never found it hard to just go literally like knock on doors in the real estate space and ask other agents, like, what worked for them? What didn't work? Did you try this? Why didn't that work? Or why did it work? Because we all choose different systems or strategies based on different values in our own experiences. So there's definitely more than one way to get to an end result. But for me, it was about failing forward faster. So I love masterminding. I love community for that reason. So I do a lot of that in different online spaces. I get out and also teach. I train still in real estate. So that's another way. And then I have a podcast, Determined AF, which is out there. And again, it's really about anybody that is determined to do something, whether it's, mastering your mastermind, mastering your mindset, becoming more aware, if it's getting strategic, if it's planning goals. And for others, it might be how to make transformation in a career, how to tell your story, how to overcome the fear of judgment, just little different things, whatever you're determined to do. So I guess the answer to that really would be community and masterminds, online space. I've got online master classes, downloadable courses, and then one-on-one coaching and group coaching programs as well.
Oh, that's great. So this is a perfect time to ask you if people listening to this podcast or watching the video wanted to find out more about you and what you're doing, where would they go to find out more details?
Absolutely. Great question. So you can find everything on my website, which is jamiemilam.com. You can connect with me on the gram at Ms. Jamie Milam. So those are the easiest, fastest ways. And of course, like I said, you can also go over and check out all the info that we've got on Determined AF podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
That's great. And then are your podcasts released weekly or what's your schedule?
Yep. Every Monday, new episode release. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. Every great now and then we drop a little mini episode, throughout the week. So there's a couple mini-sodes in there as well.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what we do. We drop every Wednesday and we're a video and a podcast. So it's the same thing. Just depends on how you want to listen or watch. And sometimes like we'll do every other week where, I'll have a guest just like yourself. And then the opposite week, I'll do an educational topic. So it just breaks it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's really helpful because I think that again, mentioning that hearing it from other people's voices and experiences, I always think is a great way for you to pick and choose the pieces that resonate the most with you from people that you hear from and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And, so having a guest or having a solo episode where it's a little bit more training is the perfect way for your audience and your listeners to be able to say, yeah, like those things really resonate with me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I know you've had many challenges, to get to where you are, because, if you're successful, you have to overcome obstacles, right? But tell us some of the, maybe, what are some of the ways that, as a professional woman, some of the things that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It could be a lengthy conversation. It doesn't have to be.
I know, right? I'm like, we could do this for an hour. No. Well, I will say that, I've always been fairly independent. I think you have to be whenever you've been living on your own since 15,
Yeah.
or when you become a mom at 19, which I know many women have. And so independent has always been a factor in my life. But with that has also come assertiveness. And I think it is a challenge for women to be assertive and direct, because I see it as a strength. I see it as a strength in other women. The words that I hear often are intense, intimidating. And I think that those are some of the challenges that women can face in the professional world because people aren't used to women not just placating what people want to hear. And so for me, I've always kind of just looked at it as, look, we're all like, we have an end goal in mind, right? So I just want to call out where the gaps are or where there's room for improvement, constructive feedback, even, when it's welcomed, right? Or when it's requested.
Right.
Um, when it's a space that, it has been asked of me, what can we do? To me, when we look in the business space at those things, that's when we're trying to take the personal out of it, right? This isn't a personal objection. It's a business professional objection to say no matter who's in this space, we need to hold them accountable. If we're spending money on something, we need to hold that money accountable. We need to be getting a return on investment, whether that's time, money, energy, whatever that looks like. And oftentimes I think that because I can be very like direct, and just call it as it is, that is seen as intense. But what I have learned on the flip side of that is there are spaces where it's welcomed, and there are spaces that people actually are gravitated towards you because that's what they want. They don't want somebody to just tell them what they think that they want to hear. They don't want somebody who's going to sugarcoat it. They don't want somebody who's going to be really light on them and maybe not hold them as accountable. And so when you embrace those parts of yourself and you step into that authenticity, I wholeheartedly think that you will magnetize more people that really want to be in your space. And that's a win-win because then you're winning, you feel fulfilled, you don't feel like you have to, stifle who you are or compromise, minimize, moderate who you are. So you get to show up in your space naturally, in your environment, in your strong suit, and other people are coming to you because that's what they need and that's what they want. So it's a win-win, right? So
Yeah.
if for any women out there that are always hearing like, you're intense and you're so direct and all those things, at the same time, y'all, like, yes, we do have a responsibility to pay attention to how we deliver things and what spaces we're in and how we deliver them. But I would encourage anybody to say, embrace it.
Mm.
Find the space that is going to embrace that, and there will be such magic that happens in those environments once you've found that alignment.
Well said. So well said. Love that. Love that response. So my last question to you would be, now this is in the, get in your time machine, and think about what is your vision of retirement?
Mm, Regina, that is so so far for me.
I know,
Like,
I know, I know. It's far for a lot of people and closer to some.
the other thing for me too is that I this is going to sound a little cliche, but I really think that once you start to find a groove for what you enjoy doing, I don't know if for me there's real retirement, right? I know that I probably will find a way to work, whether that's as actively or not, right? Um, I don't know that I think I would get bored, but
Yeah.
regardless, I will just speak very transparently and say that um, as part of a big planner, I have started to back that plan up and just look at it at smaller bite sizes, right? 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
because then it doesn't seem so big and overwhelming.
Right.
Um, Plus, I've noticed that things pivot usually in that time frame, 3 to 5 years. But either way, my vision is that I get to impact people with stories like this, with recommendations, with, advice and strategies while also truly embracing and seizing every opportunity for freedom to say yes to places, to people, to experiences all over the world,
Mhm.
and, getting to do something that I love, but choosing when I get to do that. And so for me, I think that that's probably, you know, a vision of retirement, but also, and it's going to be on a beach, likely the
Oh, yeah.
Mediterranean, um, like very likely the Mediterranean. But I'm hoping that I get to live some version of that life far before retirement age,
Absolutely.
and then it just feels like life.
Right, because I'm reading, well, I'm not reading, I already read it, The Psychology of Money. There's some great quotes in there, but one of the quotes, I'm not going to get it exactly, but they refer to true wealth is being able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, or waking up that day and saying, yeah, what do I want to do today? Because you've made great choices about, saving and spending and budgeting and your 2 and 3 and 5 year plans so that you're able to make decisions as opposed to, I have to get up and do this today. It's a big difference.
It is a big difference, and quite frankly, real estate has been, quite a vessel for me in that journey already. As I mentioned, I'm a property manager. I have rental property, and soon my son will be graduating high school and heading to college. And
Wow.
when that happens, I'll utilize my home and sell my home, and I intend to buy something that then has a second living quarter. So my primary property has a space that will then always be able to be rented. So it's the mortgage itself,
Yeah.
right? So then you have a little bit more of freedom to be able to go and do those things. And if you're traveling, it's not like, oh, I have to pay for the travel and I have to pay for my mortgage at home, like all of those little things. That's to me where real estate can really help on that financial aspect too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This is an absolute pleasure to meet you and learn more about you. It's very, very thrilling to hear your story.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. And thank you everyone for listening. Again, I'm Regina McCann Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. Our website is forgewealth.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Forge Wealth, and on LinkedIn, Regina McCann Hess. Go make it a great day.